All right. Welcome to the Vaughncast Show. Happy Friday, everybody. Today I got Lindsay on the show. She is an addiction counselor. We'll be talking about her experience with alcohol, sobriety, her sobriety journey, and her career as an addiction counselor. How are you doing today?
I'm great. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here and talk to you more about this. So thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. So we met on Sobriety Threads, which is on Threads. It's like a Twitter's
hmm
version or Instagram's version of Twitter, which I like a lot more.
Yeah, I like it too. I
I just
dig
really
it.
I like the positivity. When I wake up in the morning, I scroll and I look and I like people's, oh, I'm clean for X amount of time and good job, congratulations. Every day it's a win.
I love it.
Yeah,
It motivates me. I love seeing
too.
that.
Yeah. Okay, so how is your day going? Happy Friday, by the way.
Oh yeah, happy Friday. My day is going pretty good. And well, my day's always going well when I get to talk to someone in recovery. As cheesy as it sounds, it is true.
Mhm.
Um, so this is awesome for me right now. I love doing this in my free time. But I had work, talked to some clients, I had to meet with them, and it was good. So yeah, doing
Good.
good.
Good. Today's my
Yeah.
day off. I worked 6 days in a row, so I just chilled today in bed.
Well deserved.
Yeah. So it's pretty chill. I got a meeting to go to later today. Um, so
Nice.
yeah, so congratulations on your sobriety. How long have you been in recovery for?
Well, I initially came into recovery and got sober through treatment in 2013, had a slip up and came back in 2016. So I've been sober straight since then.
Awesome. Cool. So for me, I got completely clean 15 months ago. I remember I was able to stop on my own for like 6 months in 2018. But then I
Wow.
had yeah, it was weird. I was like, oh, I'm done. I thought I was done. And then I had a wisdom tooth removal and I had no idea they were putting me under. I just thought, oh, okay. My previous wisdom teeth, they've, uh, they've injected lidocaine in my mouth. I'm like, oh, cool. I'm going under. Sweet. I didn't think twice of it, anything. But then once I started inhaling that gas, I'm like, oh, this feels good. I'm stoked. And I was waiting like, okay, cool. So, and the doctor said, okay, you can't smoke for 3 days. I'm like, okay, I'm counting days down. I'm getting fucked up. And then, when I was kind of dazed down and everything, I was Googling like, oh, what happens if I smoke when I
Yeah.
have my wisdom tooth healing? Oh, don't be too bad. First thing I did, I called the plug like 2.5 days. I'm like, hey, where you at? Kind of thing, and just
Mhm.
spiraled for like 6 years. 6 years went by, and
Mm.
here we are. Yeah.
I hear you, man. I did that with the wisdom teeth thing too, and they gave me I forget what it's like the least amount of painkiller, and I had my dad holding them at first, and then I had one in my system. I go, give me the bottle, and then I took them in a day, and then I was off.
Yeah.
That was like in the very beginning when I had like 30 days clean, and I'm like, I can do this.
Yeah,
Nope.
yeah, it's tough. I told them I should, like, part of me was wondering, like, when I got my other one taken out, I was like, I could lie. I really could lie and just say nothing about my addiction. But then I'm like,
hmm
I'd feel that's when I started working the program. I'm like, I feel really bad about this and I'd probably internalize it and I feel guilty and that guilt and shame
Yeah,
will turn to using. So I just got ibuprofen and it sucked. It really sucked. Like I was just
but you
I
did
was
it, man.
yeah, I was grumpy the whole day. I'm like, fuck this, fuck everybody. I'm gonna go to sleep. But yeah. Um so I take it drinking was your drug of choice for the most part?
No,
Okay, cool.
no.
Well, okay,
It
no
was
worries.
it was my first love.
First love.
It was my
Okay, me
sorry, my
too.
arm.
It's okay.
Yes.
Me
So
too.
I identified as alcoholic first and foremost. And as I was heavily into AA, I used, I was an alcoholic, but I was a heroin addict.
Ooh. Can you name it?
Fentanyl,
What kind of crack?
crack, benzos. I love.
Mm,
Oh, is it cutting out still?
it's okay now. It's
Okay.
okay now.
So
So
no.
you
So
said, from what I heard, you said you alcohol's your first love, and then you're drinking, and then you.
heroin, fentanyl, crack, benzos,
Oh, my.
MDMA.
Oh, you're a real one.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I was a
alcohol.
trash can. I used
Uh,
everything. I was a trash can. I just used whatever I could just
mm,
get inside of me.
okay. So I guess for this one, we'll just be talking about the alcohol, and yeah. So, me
Gotcha.
too. First thing for me was it was alcohol, and then we was cool, but we made me paranoid, man. I feel like if we never made me paranoid, I wouldn't do anything else. Got into heroin, got into ice, got into coke, got to Molly. I didn't
Yeah.
have a shot, but I love Black Tar was cool. Ketamine was cool. Out of body experiences were cool. Scared of
Wow.
I got scared of psychedelics. I never really tried them because I knew in my head you have to be in a good mindset. And I'm like, even though when I was like fucked up, I'm like, I'm not in a good mindset, man. Like, if I'm being honest, if I gotta take drugs like every weekend, I don't know if I'm in a good mindset, and that scared the shit out of me. I was like, I don't want to do them. So
Me too. The what is it? Acid everybody would take, and I'm like, nope, not
no,
doing it.
I see what happened to Charles Manson. I'm not doing it. But
Yeah,
yeah,
that's a good
that's like
thinking
that's
there.
but that's like a very exaggerated thing. I don't know. I just know it lasts way too long. It's like 12 hours. I don't, I like, and I like
I'm not
to,
doing it.
yeah, I just felt like I'd be too out of my element. Like
Hmm.
when I'm on dope or something, I feel like I can control it. I won't have like really crazy thoughts. I'll just be like so hyper
Right.
focused or like nodding that it'll be cool. But, um, okay. What was like the first, what was your first drink and when was it for you?
Okay, so I was a freshman in high school.
Okay.
So that was probably 15 years old, I'd say. Yeah. We had a homecoming football game, and that was the first time I ever drank, got drunk as well. So it was, oh, I also got kicked out of school because of it. So it was nicely wrapped together there.
Okay.
Um, but I remember I just wanted to fit in. I wanted to have friends. I had heard a girl in class, girl with big boobs, and she was like really popular and cute. And she had all the guys like talking to her. And I remember overhearing her say, yeah, we're going to go to the football game and drink. And we did it last week. And I was like, drink at the football game? And I was such a goody goody. Like I never did any, you know what I mean? But I'm like, yeah, I want to do that. I want the boys to look at me and talk to me. And that was like literally how I was thinking. And so I got a couple friends and we drank. Right next to the school was my friend's house, and we walked over there. And a parent told on me because I blacked out the first time I drank. And I don't know what I was really doing, but I guess I was acting drunk. And the officer came and got me, called my mom, and I went home. And I just remember being so upset and mad. But I also remember saying, I found something. Like I felt almost free, like freedom. It was wild, you know? It's like, this is the answer, man.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing this. And I
We
did.
think alike. We think we have a lot of,
Yeah.
yeah, for me, I drank a little bit in high school. I was pretty good in high school, actually. Like, I only snuck out twice, and even my dad was like, "I don't care if you sneak out. Like, I don't care. It's just, just be careful how much you drink." I was surprised. He was
Right.
even upset that I snuck out. Oh, you can go ahead, but just be really careful, and like, it can really do damage to your body. And this was like I was in high school. This was like early 2000s. You know,
Yeah.
um, so that was fine and all. But then I got into college, felt more independence, and then what did I try? I think, oh, dude, I remember like I did coke the first time, and I'm like, this is it. This is the fucking shit right here.
Oh,
Like, oh my god, it's so cool. It was shitty coke. It was up all night. And I was like, oh my god, it's fucking cool. Fucking Young Jeezy, fucking Gucci, man. I fucking love this shit, bro. This is my shit.
Oh my god,
And
it's so
then
funny.
and then
I love.
yeah, spiral from there, like he was big, and E and all that stuff. And it just like you said,
Yeah,
it gave me I felt like I could cope with life. I felt like I could
yeah,
be more social. I'm noticing now I'm more introverted. Maybe in my head the whole time it was like subconsciously doing these drugs so I can be more extra, more like outgoing. I always went to social gatherings as many would in their 20s. So I felt like, okay, I got a pregame, but man, like I was taking Molly to pregame, man. Like, I don't know. That's pregame. It's just a thing. And yeah, so I get it. There was just made me feel okay, made me
I
feel
hear you.
normal, and just made me, yeah, just liquid courage, as they say, with some stuff, like you talk to women more and just say more jokes, all this stuff, you know. So I get that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Um, so when did you realize all this stuff started affecting you in a negative way where it started becoming manageable?
Oh, it
Oh,
just cut out. You said it
okay.
started becoming what?
Oh, so when did you realize that? When did you start realizing that all these activities that you were partaking in started having a negative effect on your life in terms of school, work, family, all that?
Hmm. When I first discovered it, I remember I was probably like 18 when things started escalating pretty far, and I started realizing something's not right because all I want to do is just be intoxicated, and I'm not interested in much else. I went through a breakup, I remember, and I started. I lost a bunch of weight because I was under the influence all the time, doing drugs, drinking, like 24/7, and I was just so sad. I remember, and I was like, man, what am I doing? And I didn't stop though because I didn't want to feel any pain. Like that was how I coped with the feelings of, you know, betrayal, like, the breakup, the high school breakup, like, well, it was at the end of high school, but that was like the most painful feeling I've ever encountered was heartbreak. And I'm like, man. But then I remember, I got over it obviously. And, you know, it just kept going. Like I kept getting more into it, but I kind of like ignored that thought, like, oh yeah, well, you need to do this because I didn't want to be sober and deal with my feelings in life. And I realized that it was working for me at the time until it didn't years later, and I realized that the alcohol I'm just miserable and it's not a party. It wasn't a party for long though, but I got arrested for the first time at 18. And so I think that's when it started to sink in a little bit. But of course, like I had to keep going and test it out. And I ended up getting arrested like 11 times. I went to prison. And then that's when I stopped. I went to rehab right after that at the end of 2012.
Okay.
So it was a
Oh,
process kind of thing.
yeah. I can relate to a lot of that where I think I had a bad it was getting bad with alcohol where I was blacking out a lot and I was doing drugs, and there was one point where I was like super into coke and everything, and that's when like people set me aside. I didn't take it. I didn't like it really, the intervention aspect. Half of them were like drunk or fucked up and they were planning to get drugs after. Didn't help. Um yeah, and like that I became very defensive, and that's when I started learning, hey, you can keep partying, just keep it under control. That's what I told myself. Don't tell anybody. So
Yeah.
over the years, I learned how to become quote unquote high functioning, where I would start doing more drugs alone. I, would do it to a point where I felt like I could manage. I was going to school, I was going to work, and I told myself like, wow, I guess this is how adults do things. Like they work hard on the weekdays and they party on the weekends. You know, um,
Mhm.
in the back of my head, I knew there was something up. I don't know. I just felt like I could be doing better. No one feels great after a hangover. You're coming down. But
Mm-mm.
but yeah, it took me a while. Like you said, I didn't want to face that. And what you were saying about breakups, man, I loved like a good. It's okay. This is fucked up, but I feel like I liked breakups in a sense because I knew, oh, it's a great chance to get fucked up. This is a really
Yeah.
good chance to get fucked up. It was just
Mhm.
like it was something about it, and I think that's really destructive. And I think that's why currently I'm not dating because I only have 15 months, man, and I don't know. I feel like when I start getting involved romantically, things are good when they're good, but when they're bad, I don't know. I don't know how I would react right now. So best to
Mhm.
go do it.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's still to this day, heartbreak is still the most difficult feelings I've ever dealt with. The rejection or the betrayal, all that stuff that comes with heartbreak. It's like that gut-wrenching feeling in my chest. Like I never had anything as painful as that.
Yeah,
So,
listening to
yeah,
emo
and,
music
and
doesn't help either, but I like it.
yeah.
Oh man, like
Yeah.
Fallout Boy and like all that shit, like Taking Back Sunday. Listen, like, oh yeah, this feels good. I don't know
I
why
know,
feeling
like high
sad feels
school
good.
days.
Yeah, definitely.
That's
So
funny, yeah.
yeah, you said you got institutionalized a lot. When was like how many rock bottoms did you have, and when did you realize like you decided you had enough? I know you said you went to prison recently or earlier back then.
Yeah. Yeah, I was 23 when I went to prison, and it had just accumulated over not even that many years. I mean, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, and I was just so many consequences. I was just so far gone. And so it kind of happened quick, and it was like one big rock bottom, I guess. I it was like when I thought that it was rock bottom, it got worse. And I reached another rock bottom and I was like, "Oh my god." But I thought prison was for sure it. And it was, but it wasn't. It was almost it, right? So like I thought this is the big thing. Like I was in there a year. So I'm abstinent and I didn't understand really what alcoholism was. If that makes sense. Like I knew that I had an alcohol drinking problem, but I hadn't been to treatment ever, and I hadn't been to any 12-step fellowships or any kind of fellowships programs like that. So I didn't really understand, obviously. And I thought if I just go a year without doing anything, then when I get out, I'll be good. Well, when I got out, I lasted maybe a week or two, and then I started doing things again, thinking I could go back to that low tolerance of whatever substance, alcohol and whatnot, that it crept back up so quick. And then it was a few months later, I got arrested again and I was in jail. And that was pretty much it. My parents were done with me, and they finally stopped like answering my calls in jail. Like they left me in there with like $100 bond, and like, I didn't have any friends because I just, we used and drank together. We weren't real friends. We didn't really like each other. So, when I got out, I remember, and I was very lucky because I signed a thing that I could go back to prison if I violated within like 3 years, but it was a misdemeanor. So I got back home, and then I remember I started using again. And one day I remember being outside in the garage. It's so weird that I remember this. Like I can visually be there. Like when I think about it, it's crazy. And I was out, I was like, I have my phone. I'm trying to call someone to come, bring me something, or I can go to them. And I'm like, oh my God, like I can't get a hold of them. And I'm like, all I do is try to get messed up. I get messed up and I recover from getting messed up. And then I try to keep doing it and keep doing it. And it's never enough. It was like this realization that, like, Lindsay, you don't have enough money in the world to stay at the level that you would want to. And now that I think about it, there is no level that I'd want to stay at. I would end up dying because I would just keep going if I had the money to do so, you know? And it was like, it hit me at that moment though. I've had a lot of moments over the years, but that one was pretty significant for me. And then I called a treatment center using my mom's insurance and I went. And that was the beginning, you
Congratulations.
know?
Sometimes we gotta
Thanks.
go through a lot of hurdles.
Yeah,
Yeah,
man.
there was for me, it was just, I think I started feeling like I didn't care about a lot of things. I have a good job. I said, I don't care. Like I knew the consequences. I'm like, okay, I know if I keep calling out, I'll get let go. I know if I keep doing this, bad things might happen. I almost OD'd once, and it's so weird. I almost OD'd in one day. Went to urgent care. Luckily,
Mm,
while I was waiting, my heart rate went down. I went to the doctor. They said, hey, like you, what you're doing, this drug you're doing, it's really bad. So just be careful, you know? And in my head, I'm like,
mhm,
okay, I'm done. I'm going to throw away what I have left. You know, I walked home, took an Uber there, walked home. It's not too far. And it's so weird. The closer I got to my house, the more I was like, I'll just do a little bit more. You know,
mhm.
I end up doing some more. And yeah, I
Of
like what you
course.
said about there's not enough money in the world for you to like be on that level because it's true. I mean, it gets expensive. And it got to a point where, you decide to pick this over groceries and like food and water, all that
Yes.
stuff. But yeah, I just
It
realized,
is wild.
yeah, it's a priority. And I realized the last time I got high, I was like, okay, this is getting scary. Like it's weird. I almost like the thrill of it, like, oh, what's gonna happen? It's excitement of life. It's like living on the edge. But I was like, if I keep doing this, I might fall off the edge. So I got clean. I sobered up that week, and that Friday I started going to meetings, and I've been good since then.
Wow. Wow. That's amazing though. That
Thank you. It
realization, man.
took 14 years,
Yeah.
but here we are. It's okay.
Hey, you
Yeah.
know what? It took me quite a few years. I relapsed in the beginning. I'd make it 30 days, 25 days, 90 days. And then, I was like, oh my God, I'm never going to make it. But I just didn't give up. And that's the answer. I've come to find out, like, that's the
Yeah.
key.
I mean, prior
Don't
to
give
the
up.
program, I relapsed every week. I tried these self-help
Mhm.
books. That was when I was kind of in denial.
Yep.
Like, oh, addiction's not a disease. Come on, man. Like cancer's a disease, bro. I can stop whenever I want, bro. Like what the fuck? I started doing these self-help
Duh.
atomic habit books.
Me too.
I'm like, but
Hmm.
it's so weird. I'd have so much willpower in the beginning on Sunday. Okay, I'm coming down. All right, I'm done. I won't go for like a week. I call my play. Hey, don't pick up my call for like a month. And then
Yeah,
everything's
right.
good. Yeah, and then like something happens where like, a minor inconvenience or a major inconvenience. By the end of the week, I'm like, hey, I know I said this, but come on, let me come through. You can't turn down money. You know, and
Hmm.
it was start over. And I think all those relapses for me built a sense of self compassion. So I think you
Mm.
posted it where you said like you can't hate yourself into changing. You have to like
Yeah.
accept yourself. And I didn't accept myself for a
So
long
true.
time. And then that weekend when I decided I should go to get help, I think that's when I surrendered. It's like, okay, maybe I do need help because I have been obviously this hasn't been working. Anything I've done, I tried therapy, I tried self-help books, I just tried raw willpower or whatever that is. But for me,
Hmm.
it's just a disease, man. Like it gets a hold of you.
Yeah, it does. Yeah. So grateful to not be struggling in that anymore. That was like such a whirlwind, right? It's
Mm.
crazy.
Right. So
So,
um so you said you went through rehab. what was that like? I tried to get an outpatient space, but where I'm
Mm-hmm.
at is just very low. There was just a lot of people. It was understaffed. It wasn't a private one.
Yeah,
It was like a state funded one. And I told myself like, okay, they're gonna. It was like surrendering for jail. Like, okay, I'm gonna have a date where they're gonna like I have to go in, so I'm gonna get high up until I go in. That was like my thinking. Like, I'm gonna party until it's time to put it down. They never called back, so I kept getting high. So,
oh really?
yeah, I mean, like I would call. All right, like we'll get back to you, and they just said sorry. We're just really understaffed. There's one person in charge of like three treatment centers for the outpatient services. So yeah,
That's sad.
yeah.
Yeah, it is like that. If so, well, I'll tell you more when I talk about working on them, but the the treatment center was a very nice one. This was back in the day when the Obamacare, the insurance was
Mm,
paying for treatment. It was like right in the beginning, I remember. Um no, maybe not in the beginning, but it was like you could go to treatment and like the rehab was like 26 grand it paid and it was like 30 grand. So it like paid almost all of it for a month. And I didn't even know that till I left. Cause as soon as I gave them my insurance card information, they're like, come on over. And I'm like, okay. So I drove to the other coast to Palm Beach. I stayed in this nice place for 30 days. I really, really took advantage of the time there. Um, and because the thing is too, is like, I always knew I was going to get sober. Like I knew I really wanted it and that I didn't belong out on the streets and dying of drug addiction and alcoholism. Like I knew that couldn't be my fate. I had to do this. And I loved being sober, and I loved being in treatment, learning about myself and doing all this. And I did 30 days and then I found a outpatient place by my house, literally walking distance, over here, on the west coast of Florida. And, um, I relapsed, when I got home, but I was an outpatient and I got really close to the people there and they helped me get back up. And, I had to go inpatient there again because, I used a couple of times and that was the beginning of my sober date, like straight through, and, um, man, like I'm so grateful for them. I just had the owner of that treatment center on my show, but they helped me save my life. Like it was a small treatment center, maybe like 6 clients. They're like family owned. And they just said, yeah, you just come stay. And they didn't know if my insurance would even cover it or whatever. They did it for me. And I mean, it did end up covering all of it, but they were like genuinely trying to help and they did. And, when I got a year sober, I ended up working there at that treatment center. So it was a blessing, man. It was wild. Um, but yeah,
yeah, awesome. Well, that's great
yeah,
that you got back on it and you fell off and you're right there now.
yeah.
So walk us through the detox experience and just the early parts of your recovery. I know that
Okay.
I didn't want to. I was scared of getting sober slash clean because I knew what awaited me. The
Yeah.
withdrawal and the detox. Talk about your experience with that.
So I've detoxed many different ways off many different things. Obviously, I told you you know, had been around quite a bit, but first time I detoxed off of certain things, I was in alcohol and other things. I was in jail. So that was like the cold turkey thing. No, they gave me detox meds for that. And it was, to come off alcohol a couple days, but I was not an everyday drinker at that point when I was, in and out of jail. So it wasn't bad. I was fine within a couple days. It was other stuff that really had me sick. So then, when I went to the nice place, I was in detox for like 2 weeks. And I was still detoxing after that because I was on benzos with the alcohol. And so, that's like a long taper. And I was just like, I couldn't even complete sentences for months. Like I was really, it was really hard. So like I did some kind of damage, man, for real. And, I remember like 2 weeks and then I did a month there. That was the place I told you about on the other coast. And then, but detoxing when I got sober again, when I got sober again, I ended up, I had to detox myself. And I don't like to say this because like the only reason I could do it myself is because I had a way to get the meds and I knew I'd worked in treatment for years and I knew how to do it. Give myself the meds, but um coming off alcohol was probably the hardest thing. It was probably more painful than coming off of like hardcore drugs. And I had never known the power of it because I'd become that every day, every second drinker, like blacked out for almost a week straight, just like tearing my body up. Like I was so sick, like after even like months, like I was going to the hospital because I like would keep throwing up and I couldn't drink water. It was like so crazy. And that happened to me numerous times. Um, and so when I got through that, I just was like, oh, man, this is a whole nother ball game, And but yeah, detox. I mean, I ran from it too when I got sober because I knew that time's gonna come when I have to go back and detox. But you know what? As soon as I did do it, I was like, this is okay. Like it was only a couple days and I was fine. So it was like in my head, I was amping it up and like so much, like just amping it up in there, like getting myself so scared. And then it kept me, I want to keep drinking because of it. So it was okay, just getting through it. And it's like the thing that I kept saying to myself is, my old, well, she was like, my old sponsor. She had talked to me when I was going through it and I was like, I can't do this. And she's like, the only way out is through. You have to go through. And I was like, no. And then that stuck with me though. And I like literally kept saying it over and over again. It sounds cheesy, but it's true. And I remember being like, damn, because my thinking is always like, how can I skirt around? Where's the shortcut? Everything in my life was like that, And so I realized like, I got to go through it. And then it wasn't so bad. It was like my resistance to it made it so shitty. But like when I just accepted it and did it, it was like, oh, it was like fine. It's funny how that works, isn't it? It's
Yeah,
crazy.
it really is because I was in fear. I think also too the
Yeah.
uncertainty, right? Doing drugs, partying has become my identity for a decade and some change. It's all on you. I think I was scared that who am I going to become? I was more scared of that. And I was like, I'd rather be miserable or just comfortable, tweaked out of my room, paranoid, than living life because it seems so scary. But once I got through it, physical and mental withdrawals took time. I mean, for me personally, it took like a year and some change to see like big differences, but little things here and there. Like I struggled with just like sleep at first, and then like I got irritated really easily, and just I don't know, just dealing with emotions, learning how to cope without drugs and alcohol. It took a while, and now it's getting better, but it took a while. It doesn't get easy overnight, but it's the best decision
Mhm.
I've made in my adult life.
That's so cool to
Um,
hear.
yeah, thank you. And it's so weird, man. I was like, oh, I don't want to be one of these. I don't know. I felt like when I was drinking and partying, I was like, I don't want to be one of those sober guys. They're just like, they're so judgmental and everything. I mean, some are, but now it's like, all right, I don't want to, I kept that in my head. I don't want to be those people. So I just
Yeah.
accept everybody for what they are and just, hey, When you're ready, you're ready. Don't force it on people.
True. Very true. That's it.
Yeah. So did you think you would ever get sober at all? Was that like a fantasy? Did not even come across your mind? Did you think you'd
Say
be
that
doing
again.
this for life? Did you ever think
Say
you'd be
that one
where
more
you
time.
are? Did you think you'd ever get to where
Oh,
you are today in terms of like sobriety? Like, was sobriety even on
no.
your to-do list?
The thing is that's interesting for me is before I was even thinking about quitting drinking, I wanted to like be a self-help author and like I'm like all these like grandiose ideas, right? Cuz I'm like drunk and um I'm like I'm going to be an addiction counselor one day and but I'm going to quit drinking, which if I read enough self-help books, like I can figure this out because I'm so smart, right? Well, it didn't work. So just so everybody knows, it can only take me so far. Some might be able to do that for sure. I was so deep in it. I needed more help, but no, it was weird though, how I can pinpoint myself being like, I'm going to do this. And then when I was in treatment, I said, I want to be an addiction counselor. And they're like, everybody wants to do. I'm like, no, you don't understand. Like, I have to, like, that's what I'm going to do, man. And I tell people now, don't work in addiction unless you feel like you really got to, because it's difficult to stay sober. Obviously it's the biggest relapse rate because most of the people working in a treatment center are recovered, whatever. But it's just it's like being around active alcoholics and addicts all day. And so when I didn't have that much sobriety time, it was much more difficult. I mean, now it's no big deal, but it was a tough go for a few years there, and just really like struggling, like burning out and, trying to take care of myself. And it's difficult, but it's the coolest freaking thing. Like, I don't know what I would even want to do. I mean, I have a couple ideas of what I want to do, but I feel like I'm actually able to like use my pain for purpose. It's like, how cool is it that I can sit here and say, oh, I did this stupid crap and, I went to jail, I went to prison. Oh, I was off my rocker, out of my tree. And now I can share that openly and someone else can hear that and be like, oh man, like maybe if this girl can do it, maybe I can do it. So like, it's just been the biggest gift ever. And, I just I'm in school. I continue to do that, to get my licensed mental health counselor eventually. And, um, it's just every day's pretty good. I can't really complain, like I'm living the dream, you know? So
That's
it's cool.
awesome. So
Yeah.
what? Okay, what made you decide to become an addiction counselor? I know you just said that when you're in treatment, you wanted to become one. What about it was so appealing for you?
I'm not sure exactly. It was weird that I had always wanted that even before I got sober. So, and I don't know why. I can't really answer that, because I always had like an inkling that I wanted to like help people, but I couldn't help myself, yet. But I don't know. It's just like, I just knew it's a weird thing. I don't know. It's just like, that's what I want to do. And, you know, I told the owner like, hey, when I was in treatment, I was like, hey, if you ever open a treatment center, or I mean, if you ever need a woman or whatever to work here and you guys expand, I'd love to. And that's what happened. But he was like, okay, well, when you get a year sober, we'll hire you. And I left treatment and everything. I was like the worst client ever there. Like they put up with me. I was just like I stayed sober, but I did a lot of lying. I did a lot of like, sneaking cell phones and the boys. And I was just, that's the one thing about me is I didn't like to follow rules, but I would sober. And so that caused me a lot of trouble. Just not wanting to listen to anybody, a sense of entitlement, and that I've since had to come to terms with. But um, they saw me in an AA meeting a year later, and they're like, hey, we're opening a house for women and we want you to come work there. We've been watching you the past few months in meetings and you're doing all this stuff and legit, like you're not bullshitting. And I was like, yeah, man, like, okay. I made like $50 a week, got to live there. They helped me get my license. I had a breathalyzer in my car. They helped me get a car. Like it was crazy. I would drive around the clients in a Explorer, like with a breathalyzer in there. And the owner is like, see, this is a good example. You can show them what could happen. I was like, no, this sucks. But I forgot about that. Yeah, it was just like things that I didn't think that I would get through. Like I had to, I don't, it was like I didn't have any money. I didn't have anything. And I just like kept pushing. And it was like it was provided because I was doing the right thing or something. And I'm like, this is crazy. Like, this isn't real. And you'd always hear people say that. And I'm like, they're full of shit. But it really was true for me. And I was like, man, so maybe there is something to this sobriety stuff. And it kept me wanting to keep going back. And I wanted to do everything I could. I did a lot of service work. Like I got super involved in 12-step program and chairing meetings. And I was like Mrs. 12-step over there. I love that shit because, like a good, alcoholic I am, I want to be the center of attention too, like sober. Right. So I'm like, I'm going to learn everything and do this and do that. And shit, I mean, it kept me coming back. Right. Obviously it's not like that anymore, but the first year or two, it's like, that's it. Like I just wanted to learn. So, yeah.
No, it's awesome to see. I think it's very inspirational for your clients to see you do that in that process. You had a breathalyzer in the car just to see how
Yeah.
far you can go, climbing up from your rock bottom. Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, I've been doing this podcast for a while and I really hid all this stuff up until recently. Just because like, I don't know, I was so scared to put it out there, this shame of, and people knew I partied, but I didn't say I had a problem, you know, but saying that and being open about it, I get DMs from friends. Oh, that's so cool. You say that. I know somebody that's going through it or whatever. And it's really cool to connect in that level. Um, I don't know. Thank you. For a long time, I had a problem with the word sober. It had negative connotations to it, like I'd be boring or whatever. But it's really cool, man. I mean, like I can see where people have an issue with it when the people like force their beliefs on other people. But I'm really enjoying life, living clean, man. Like I really didn't think I could. I thought I'd be partying till the end.
Me too.
That was my whole identity. How is life for you now? Now that you've been clean compared to back then,
Damn.
like what's it like?
I don't think about getting messed up. That's probably the greatest gift of all because that struggle daily, the fighting in my head of like, don't do this and no, do it, oh my God, that was the worst feeling, the feelings of hopelessness. I no longer feel hopeless. I wake up like energized, like, what am I going to do today? Like, it's like, that is not me. Like, that was never me. Like, I was not motivated. I was so lazy. I didn't work. I didn't do anything. I didn't want to. I just wanted to do what I wanted to do and like not grow up. And I feel I'm a mom. I have a 7-year-old. His dad isn't around. So it's just me. And so I have a responsibility to him and it's the best responsibility I've ever had. It's crazy, man. And I just like love normal things now. I used to hate normal things. I remember the thought I constantly had over and over and over again when I was in addiction, that what are these people like mowing their lawn and like they're getting their mail from their mailbox and like going to work? Like, what's wrong with them? How could they like do that? I'm like, who wants to live like that? Like, I literally didn't get it. Like, no shit. And now I'm like, I love going to the mailbox. Like just doing normal I won't do the lawn. I mean, but you know, just normal shit. It's cool. Like I like this Friday night, right? I'm just chilling. We're just chilling. This is the shit that I love. Like, it's cool. Pretty
Yeah,
cool.
I didn't like the normie activities. I'm like, what's so fun about hiking? That's weird. The fuck? Camping? I mean, I still not a fan of those, but I get it now. But it's like,
Yeah.
I was like, I asked my friends, what are you guys doing Friday night? What are you doing tonight? Staying at home, watching TV. I'm like, it's fucking boring. Don't you like want to get high or something? I had that same mindset. It's like, what the fuck's wrong with y'all, man? Like, supposed to live life
Uh,
YOLO and shit. But now it's like, oh, it's nice to have a chill day and just watch Netflix at night and just relax. I don't always have to like live life on the edge. Like, I think I romanticize that. Oh, it's Friday night. Oh, it's Saturday night. Like fuck, we're getting fucked up.
yes.
And it's like I'm 36 now. I've had the same mentality since I was like 18. And it's cool to see my
Mm-hmm.
brain develop and my expectations change. It's like, oh, I can just stay in and just relax. It's okay. I don't have to go out there. I mean, I get invited to events and bars or like people play music. I'm just like, I'd love to, but I'm up front. I'm like, honestly, I'm still new to recovery. And I think being around that environment, I get uneasy. One day, maybe I can overcome it, but I can just see myself like taking an Uber home super early,
Yeah.
just because
Yeah.
I don't know.
Well, and the thing is too, I get anxiety when I'm around it now because people are loud. Like I don't like the loudness. I don't it's so crazy, but like it's not appealing to me. And I used to be so about that nightlife and I felt like I was missing out when I got sober. And really I'm just like, "Oh my god, they're all idiots." Like I think now I'm like they're not idiots, but in my head I'm like, "Oh my god, like what going to the club? What are you doing? Like well, you're wasting your time." It's just so weird to hear myself say some of the things I say and I'm like, "Jeez, Louise, man." Like um, I don't like going to bars now. Like even there has to be a good reason for me to go there. There hasn't been a good reason to go to a bar for quite some time. I mean, restaurants are different, but um I went a couple years not I was like so anti like going out and like testing. I would not test myself because when I had tested myself before I didn't make it out. So I was like I'm not doing shit. And now it's different when like I started getting more time. It's like I could if I wanted to, but I just don't care to, you know. It's interesting.
Yeah, I shouldn't do this, but when I'm out with friends sometimes and they're drinking, I'll grab their
Mhm.
beer and like watch this. I really, I, I try. Partially, I try. I get the beer in my hand. I try to do this. I can't. For some
Oh
reason, I'm
no.
like, no, I can't. I put it down. Like, oh, that's so cool. I'm like, yeah, I've been reprogrammed in that sense. I shouldn't do that. It's kind of scary. I shouldn't do that. 'Cause I'm like,
Just in case,
I was like,
man. I
I was
just
like,
can't
I was like,
trust my
watch this. It's just, but I look at it and I'm like, I could do this, but then I play that tape in my head. I know what's gonna happen when I get home.
yeah.
I know what's gonna happen. I know what awaits me, and I have a good life right now. I really have a good life, and I can see myself throwing it away. Maybe not in one day, maybe not in one week, but it'll be gradual. I'll start doing a lot of things I like a little less. I'll start being more
Mhm.
recluse. Then my money starts going out the window. It'll be back to where
Mm.
I was 15 months ago. And I think that's why I like going to meetings because it keeps me grounded.
Yeah.
Because,
I met
yeah,
a lot of great friends there and people that to this day like they're those are my only peoples. Like, well, I mean now now that I'm longer in my recovery, I can be friends with people that aren't in recovery and aren't in active addiction. They're just like normal drinkers or however, right? And so that I was scared to be around people like that. Just people for a long time because I was scared that I was going to want to try to be normal again. But that has gone away, and it doesn't even come up in my mind now. When, like, my best friend, she's not in recovery. She doesn't have a substance abuse issue or anything like that. It's pretty cool. And, just normal. I'm like, oh, it's just
Mhm.
normal. It's crazy,
Yeah.
but meetings where I had to be there like a lot for a few years, like a lot, like two, sometimes a day. Like I was in there, like, and I met a lot of friends, and it was like cool. The young people's groups. I mean, I'm 36 now too. So it's like I'm getting a little older, but still, like that was what I needed. Like the community is the best part, the most helpful part for me to this day. Like I realize that more and more and more every day, how important. It's crazy.
So going back to the addiction counselor thing, what's the difference from a therapist who can help you with addiction versus an addiction counselor? Can you talk more about that?
Yeah. So the thing is, to my understanding, um, there isn't a difference really, except I think, and I was reading, it's like counselor, therapist, and there's another one that get used interchangeably a lot. But I have just gotten into the habit. Like I don't say therapist unless it's like a licensed mental health therapist, or um, like a marriage and family therapist, or, well, social workers are social workers. So I only really say therapist for those, like some kind of mental health or some kind of like specification. I don't They don't really say addiction therapist ever, which is interesting. So I always just assume that's maybe why, because I always just called it like that too, but it essentially means the same thing, but it's just called counselor. And, well, the thing too is, like, not all of the certifications you don't have to have a master's for all of them. You don't have to have a bachelor's for all of them. So there's different levels of, well, I'm certified addiction counselor. There's, the one above me is like the big daddy, and the one above that is the big daddy, but with a master's degree instead of just a bachelor's. So the next one I'll get is the CAP, certified addiction professional. And then the next one is, MCAP, master's CAP. So, and then people like it's like so weird. You can like get different degrees and different licenses and like have them together. I initially started with a certified behavioral health technician certification, which took me just a year, but and you have to have all these trainings and stuff and go through it's just a long, grueling process here in Florida.
Right.
Um, so
So,
that was interesting.
okay, so hypothetical question. So, let's say
Yeah.
you see a patient for addiction. How do you navigate? What's the deal? How does it work? So let's say they come in,
Oh,
they have
okay.
like
So,
let's say they come in, they have a addiction to a substance. What do you do from there?
mhm. Okay. So it depends on what treatment center I'm working at. So right now I'm working at a super outpatient treatment center, which is like not a center. It's in-home addiction treatment. So I go to them, to their home once a week, an hour a week, or I do telehealth with them like we're doing now, like, but on Zoom. Or I meet them somewhere out in the community, whatever they really want to do. Like I just went to the gym with my client the other day, but so that's not very traditional, right? But, um, it's what this is like, a new thing that they're trying, and it seems to be working pretty well. But it's for clients that usually have been to treatment, and then it's like a step down and step down. A lot of them are in their 12 step 2 or whatever they're doing, along with, it's almost like, yeah, I come see them, and then another person, another counselor, or a peer, which is, appears like you don't need as many qualifications. Like you just have to be someone in substance abuse that have gotten maybe a year or two. I forget, different trainings and stuff that I have to do. Um, so, what was I answering? You
Oh,
said
like
oh,
so
okay. So what do I do? Um, So I've worked at every single position in a treatment center, first of all. So, like, I started with an intern counselor. So when I worked in an inpatient place, I would do the groups like 2, 3 times a day, different groups. And then I do individual sessions, individual therapy with each one once a week. So it's like, it's how like insurance is too. So that's usually what it is at every center. I've worked at like 7 treatment centers. And so I've done admissions for years. I did counseling, which is what I do now. But when I worked as a counselor, like I did the groups, I did the individual sessions, and like there's all these assessments you have to do, and everything's kind of on a schedule. So they come in, some of them detox, some of them don't. Some places have detox license, some don't. So they might have to go to another place before they come there. And so essentially the first thing I do is like, I get to know them, do assessments with them if that's, applicable. Like the one I'm at now, I don't have to do those assessments. Someone else, a nurse, does them. So that's nice and saves me a lot of time. I don't even have to do like a treatment plan because the nurse does it. So it's like all the documentation, the difficult stuff I don't have to deal with at this place, which is cool. Except I do like, I have to write client notes and everything like that and document drug tests. But so I don't even know how to explain it. It's like, so I just, it's like not even like a script or anything. I just know I can tell what to work on based on what they tell me, what goals they want to achieve, and kind of like where they're at. And I can usually, just like with someone, if someone calls me like wanting to get in a treatment center, I can instantly like figure out now, like, okay, insurance, this is where you go. Like, it's just, I've just been doing it so long. I just instinctively know. It's crazy. But yeah, so then, we just try to get them more autonomous and doing better. I don't want them dependent on me. Or like, you don't want, how like sponsors, what they really, probably want to be doing is like, how they want to get you, kind of on your own or like connected to your higher power, not dependent on them. So that's kind of how I am too. Like when they come in, I want to like get them ready as soon as they come in to be able to when they leave, they'll be okay and they'll know what to do. And I'm helping them set up a plan immediately. I see my clients now for a year. The last treatment center, it was 6 months. So that's really helpful because the month-long thing, if you got to do a month, that's better than nothing, obviously. And some people can't go to treatment at all, and that's okay too. But I just see that a year long would have been something that would have helped me, or, because these routines and rituals that we make with addiction, like they are ingrained in us and it takes a while to like undo that, so the more time, I think the better success that someone will have, but that doesn't mean that they can't have success without it. I totally believe in, like, I don't push treatment on everybody. Like I'm totally honest about it. A lot of people, I don't even think, they might not need it. They might just be able to do their own thing. And I think that's kind of for everybody to decide on their own. Like, I don't like to tell them, but I like to recommend, like, when I was doing admissions, I'd be like, well, you would, cause I know what they would qualify for, like the level of care, like you would need to go to detox because of this, like the amount and this and the substance. Like I can tell where they would need to go. But if they're not physically dependent on a drug or alcohol, it's kind of just like the severity of it. And, when they do use, like how often and how much and what their patterns are. And then I can then I know where to start them at, you know what I mean? And then how to go from there. So did that answer it? Did
Yeah,
that
it
answer your
does.
question?
Yeah, no, it does. It just seems like pretty much you can assess a patient or client pretty quickly, kind of figure out what they need. Like you said, some
Yeah.
people are not dependent physically. It's just a mental thing.
Mm-hmm.
And some people do need to detox and taper, like off of benzos and
Right.
alcohol, because it's dangerous to do that by yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I do. Yeah. And every time someone says to me, like, even online, just anybody anywhere says to me, like, how do I come off of alcohol or benzos? I'm like, you need medical attention. Like, it is too risky. I didn't know that back in the day when I was going through it, but now I know how risky and dangerous it is, and people die from it for real. And so I always say seek medical attention, because I won't be caught recommending anybody do that on their own. It's too dangerous, you know? And that's just
Yeah,
how it goes.
that's how it goes. Well, I think that's all the
Mm-hmm.
time we have. That was a fun
Cool.
conversation. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me. That means a lot. I really appreciate it.
No problem. All right. Well, thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day. If you can hang on for a little bit, I'm going to stop this real quick. 1 second. Stop. Okay.